Danica Facca is a third-year doctoral student in health information science at Western, working under Dr. Laurie Donnell. She is primarily interested in digital health literacy and children's engagement with digital technologies in the Web 2.0 and 3.0 context. And as such, her doctoral research will explore children's digital health literacy skills within the COVID-19 context. Danica.
Thanks, Grant. Just to make sure that everybody can see my screen. Yes? Excellent. Also, quick correction, Grant, but it's not your fault. Phonetically, it's pronounced Danica. We also have a lovely LIS PhD student named Danica Pollock-Potts. So her and I have this infamous battle of name pronunciation.
That's what I was defaulting to, I'm afraid.
Absolutely, and I do not fault you for that.
We now have Danica Facca.
Thanks, Grant. I appreciate it. Okay, everyone. So today, I'm going to just be giving a very brief high-level overview of a piece of literature that's now published in +1 that is going to inform my doctoral work under Dr. Donnell. In particular, I'm looking for feedback towards the end of my talk around child-youth advisory committees. I'm interested to hear if anyone has undertaken that in their own work or perhaps come across any kind of work that could further inform my reading and development on putting that into my methodology. So to begin, this is part of a broader research team project, but again, I undertook it as first author. So today I'm pleased to present this on behalf of my co-authors and I. So for purposes of what you have before you today, this is from a scoping review, which was located at the intersection of research ethics, digital data collection, and minors as a population of interest. So for us and our team, we were looking to best inform our ethical practice and inform our work moving together in the digital health field when looking at the ways in which digital data collection is used in research with minors. So the questions we sought to address are right before you. So does research that involves the generation or collection of digital data among minors present unique ethical challenges? And if so, what are those challenges and how might researchers best manage or mitigate the ethical dimensions and challenges within a digital technology context? So initially we came up with, two things that we had to overcome as a team. So the first was our understanding of digital data. So for our purposes, we broadly define this as electronic data or information, however collected. Another issue that we had was defining or figuring out the scope of what is meant by minor within the literature. So a minor may be defined as any child who hasn't reached the age of majority, generally thought to be under the age of 18. However, the problem with this definition is that the age of majority varies by jurisdiction. So for example, in Canada, the age of majority is 18 in some provinces like Ontario and 19 in others like British Columbia. So age of majority may depend again on context. So again, in Ontario, the age of majority is 18, but in a particular context like alcohol purchasing, Ontario legislation dictates that one has to be 19, suggesting that in the context of alcohol purchasing, an 18-year-old is a minor. Another way we can approach this definition is basing minor on capacity. So whether or not a child is mature enough to sufficiently decide on their own if they would like to participate and give autonomous consent in research. So for our purposes, it wasn't necessary that we resolve this issue, but we wanted to highlight the complexity of conducting research with this population because it's such a context-dependent term. So the keywords that we used to inform our scoping review were intended to be over-inclusive, which you can see here. And we primarily searched through the literature using Scopus and PubMed databases. And in all, we were looking for work that explicitly ethically analyzed or presented empirical research that addressed ethical issues in relation to digital data collection with minors. So for our search strategy, again, you can see here, in all, articles were eligible for inclusion if they were written in English and discussed our context, subject, and population of interest. When it came down to it, we ended up including 20 articles for review. Most were published after 2014 and originated from the United States, Australia, and the UK. So in general, social media was the most popular means of digital data collection, followed by touchscreen technology, online forums, internet-based surveys, and electronic health record systems. So in all, across the literature, we had 6 themes emerged, which I'll briefly touch on, and you can definitely check out the paper if you'd like for more nuanced parts of our argument. So firstly, consent arose as an ethical issue. So although researchers may, again, look for autonomous consent from a child, they can also obtain consent from an authorized third party. Although consent arose as a theme among many of the studies, it wasn't found as a unique ethical concern because at the very least, it's a minimum requirement when conducting research with human participants. Similarly, issues around data handling, including encryption, secure storage location, and data access was not found to be a unique ethical issue, although it was flagged quite frequently. So data handling considerations equally apply to research with minor and adult populations. And the main issue that was flagged in the literature was that anything done under the digital environment creates opportunities for data breaches. So it's just the ways in which researchers are forward thinking about how to handle those particular instances. In addition, minors' data rights also came up as a frequent issue. And the idea behind this is that, again, minors are a population which are overseen by a lot of caretakers and also gatekeepers. So the extent to which minors have control over who sees what they produce online is, again, something that kept coming up. However, we argue that it isn't necessarily a particular unique issue to this population because minors are, again, part of a marginalized group that has their interests dictated or what is found to be in their best interests by others who oversee them. So we can extend this notion of having interests and perhaps handling of data dictated by other actors, including populations such as the elderly, those of low socioeconomic status, or neurodivergent groups of folks. So reporting risky behaviors also came up. However, this again wasn't flagged as a unique issue because the ethical complexity of navigating this kind of reporting can arise with any population of study. And lastly, when it came to identifying private versus public conceptualizations of social media, we didn't again flag this as a unique issue because the rapid development, uptake, and variety of platforms across the globe and the nuances of handling one's information affects users of all ages, backgrounds, and digital literacy levels, which I'll be further exploring in my doctoral work. So researchers won't necessarily face more struggles when conducting research with minors because, again, we can't take for granted the tacit assumption that all adult or neurotypical users also know how to handle their information in this to the same degree within an online context. So that brings us to the last piece of gatekeeping, which we did identify as a unique ethical issue for this population. Because again, we found that as soon as digital technology is introduced into the research landscape, there tends to be a pattern of hypervigilant gatekeeping across the literature. So the ways in which ethical scrutiny around digital technology becomes even more heightened when minors are introduced. So to resolve this, we decided that, again, based off of what we reviewed, implementing child and youth advisory committees are perhaps one best practice to mitigate ethical issues and include minors in the population, to not only dictate how their data is handled, but also to further understand how they conceptualize public and private domains when it comes to the digital context and their patterns and social norms of use within this context as well. So any kind of feedback in terms of your own research that's implemented CYACs is deeply encouraged. Please feel free to reach out to me. This is something that I'm going to be further exploring within my doctoral work and thinking through as a way to implement, best practice as a digital health researcher who's focused on this population. That's all from me, Grant. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Danica. Thank you, Danica.
Nailed it. Perfect.
And you people are a dream to moderate. You're keeping within the time limit. I'm so used to having to body tackle people off the stage after they've gone on for 20 minutes past their time. So thank you all. Questions or comments for Danica at this stage?
It looks like Pam did have one in chat.
Ah, Pam had one in chat. What was? I can't seem to see Pam's chat here.
I found it, Grant.
Okay.
You want me to read it aloud or?
Yeah, that's a good
Okay.
idea.
Thank you, Pam. She said, Danica, do you know Jackie Burkell's work on youth and perceptions of data privacy online? Yes, Pam, thank you. It is in my arsenal of literature, but I really appreciate sending the link. Thanks so much.